Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and a Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe as we come here to talk to you about the world of sports on a Friday night, June 14th. We're halfway through the month of June. Thank God, because the NBA playoffs suck, the NHL playoffs suck, baseball sucks. Let's get to football camp soon. That's all I have to say. Nate, we got a lot to go over tonight. How are you doing, first of all?
Real good. I don't usually watch baseball or hockey, so I don't have to worry about them sucking. The good news is college baseball is pretty cool,
Yeah.
and the local team here is once again the best team in the country, and we'll see if they can win it. I know this. I get it. Championships are what defines you, according to a lot of people. But this guy, Tony Vitello, is the best college baseball coach in the country. And I say that not just because Tennessee's ranked number one all the time, because, Joe, before this guy got here, Tennessee could not make the SEC tournament.
Right.
Okay? there's 14 teams, or there was 14 teams. 12 out of the 14 would make the SEC tournament. Tennessee got left out like 4 or 5 years before Vitello showed up. Now, they not only go to the SEC tournament, they win it. They've won it 2 out of the last 3 years. They've won 2 out of the last 3 years the SEC regular season, which, let's be honest, there's really no question. The SEC is the best baseball conference in the country. And he's gone to the College World Series 3 of 4 years, which is very difficult to do. So, that's my little rant on that. This guy, I know college baseball doesn't get as much love as a lot of sports, but you have to pay attention to what this guy is doing. And I'm kind of interested to see what happens. Does this guy stay here and build a dynasty? Does he go to do college coaches ever go to the majors? That doesn't happen much.
I haven't seen that in professional baseball. I've never seen it. I don't remember it.
But if you were a professional, if you were a general manager of a baseball team and you watch this guy, why would you not want to hire him? Is my question.
Well, we can get a lot into this. Because Rod Dato was out at USC for years and years and years, and he produced a bunch of guys from Tom Seaver on, and he never left. And that's when USC was kind of producing what they are. The whole thing is it's good we're starting here, because that's one thing. We can start with the Danny Hurley stuff, and we've been talking about this for like the last month on and off with the Saban retirement, and how college sports is becoming so complicated for these guys. And the guys that would stay forever, the Roy Williams, the Mike Krzyzewskis, those type of guys are getting out and saying, well, and you can understand why Danny Hurley dipped his toe in the water of the pros, saying, okay, well, it is getting more complicated in the college game. Why don't I go dealing with a bunch of prima donnas in the pros? It's not getting any easier for me down here. But I don't know if college baseball gets affected that much as the two major sports. I don't know if college baseball, kind of like college hockey, I don't think they get the NIL kind of money that football and basketball are dealing with. So you're not dealing with that kind of a problem. And
you do though, man. This around here, these guys, some of the baseball guys make just as much money as the basketball guys.
Really?
Some of them, I don't know if they make as much as the football players, but you got to think about it. The football team, there's like 5 guys that make a butt ton of money, and the rest of the guys kind of, ride their coattails and get a little chump change. Basketball, you got 12 guys, 12 scholarship players. 4 or 5 of them probably make pretty good money. 2 or 3 of them make big time money. And then with baseball, at least, I can only speak for what I see here locally. There are 3 or 4 guys that make just as much as the basketball guys. Christian Moore, the one of the candidates for MVP of all of college baseball, he makes a pretty good amount of money. Blake Bell, who's the first baseman, makes quite a bit of money. Kirby Cannell, who is a relief pitcher that's got the Raleigh Fingers stash.
Yeah.
He makes tons of money. I mean, what a genius. This guy makes $1 million a year just off his mustache, as my daughter would say. So you got to give that guy credit. And the one thing I will say, I don't think it's different. It's definitely different. I agree with you there. But the portal, the NIL, still comes into play. I mean, Tony still recruits big time, and he brings in players, but he's using the portal, to fill gaps. So I would say, he's more of the Saban type of guy as far, the Ryan Day, the Nick Saban type of usage with the portal, because he doesn't have to build his team with the transfer portal. Whereas in basketball now, you're using the portal to build your team, because hell, most of the guys don't even recruit players anymore unless you're Duke.
And then the other thing about it is, I mean, you can look at who's the coach at Vanderbilt? How long has he been there? And he picked a big time program there.
Yeah, he's been there for quite some time. I'm trying to think of how long he's been the coach. Tim Corbin is his name, and I think he's been there at least 20 years. So, I'm interested to see whether or not, he sticks around. He's got to be pretty old at this point. No offense, Tim. But I will say that I'm a fan of Tim Corbin. You know why? Where his alma mater?
Ohio Wesleyan.
How did you know that?
Because it's yours.
Because of what?
Because it's yours, and I took a wild guess.
Yeah. He graduated from Ohio Wesleyan in '84, which Wesleyan does have a pretty good history of baseball, as well as lacrosse. And he's been the coach there for 22 years now, and he's won 2 national championships, 2014 and 2019. But since Tony has come in and taken over, Vanderbilt has had trouble, having the type of success, because they're losing recruits
right
to Tennessee that they used to get, and they're losing guys in the portal that they used to get, and that's just because Vanderbilt can't compete, facility wise and money wise with Tennessee.
Well, another thing is, when you think about professional baseball, because I watch a lot of professional baseball, and I think what makes that sport more attractive to say in college is you don't have to deal with the analytical. When you watch pro baseball now, the GMs have their hands in the pie everywhere. I mean, pretty much the lineup card is a team effort. Back in the days when you and I were kids, back in the days of Sparky Anderson, if a GM went in there and told him how to set up his lineup, he would say, "Get the fuck out of my dugout." Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like Billy Martin. You wouldn't do that to those old school guys. But now, basically, these managers and the pros have to be accepting of the fact that they're only part of the team coming up with game planning, lineup, how pitchers are going to be used, everything like that. Everything is written out for them. I mean, that's the joke around here, is the fact that, the Yankees, as successful as they've been, Aaron Boone is looked at as a puppet more than a manager. He's looked at that he's given a lineup card, he's given a program on how to do it, and all he has to be is good with the press. Be able to sit there, throw himself under the bus for the team when it has to be done, and never take too much credit. And that's why he's kept around. I mean, he's been successful, but it's kind of like the perception is that it's Brian Cashman and the analytics department that tells him exactly what to do. And they happen to have a great deal of talent on the team. They never go off the track. So maybe if you're a guy like, the guy at Tennessee, the guy at Vanderbilt, one of these successful college coaches, like, well, do I want to go up there and be a puppet? I mean, I live in a nice area. I like being down here. I'm successful. I could go up there in a way, as we see in every pro sport. I mean, you're just there. There's no kind of job security for a manager or a head coach or anybody anymore. You're not going to be given any time to improve anything or get your program up and running. They want to see it done already. I mean, and it's what's making coaching is becoming less and less, I think, attractive to a lot of people who are going to coaching. I think when you look at it from the high school level on up,
Yeah, true. But these guys are still making lots of money. And with Tony, especially, the only reason I asked about him maybe, dipping his toe into something like, minor leagues, major leagues, is just because of the sheer amount of success. That being said, I'd have trouble seeing him leave here, Joe. This guy is a rock star. First off, the ladies love this guy. So everywhere he goes, these women who are hot just fall over with their tongues out looking at him. And he's a rock star here in town. I mean, football games, you see him walking around the field, and they usually show him on the jumbotron, and 100,000 people go crazy. He's at the basketball games, sitting on the front row like a celebrity. So I would have a hard time believing that he would leave. And there's a lot more. We've seen a lot of guys get out, as we were talking about Boeheim, Krzyzewski, Roy Williams. But we still have Bill Self. We got Tom Izzo. We got Kelvin Sampson. We got Mark Few. We've got Scott Drew. We got Tony Bennett. We got Dan Hurley, John Calipari, Rick Pitino, Matt Painter, Mick Cronin, Bruce Pearl. There's still a lot of blue blood type coaches that are out there. And, I think there's some that'll still like the college game more just because of the atmosphere and the way that, all eyes are on the NCAA tournament when that comes around. So if you can just make the dance, you can get yourself on TV.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you run your own program more than you do in the pros. I think you have more control over your life, where you want to be, what you want to do. Most of these big time programs, they've got their own jets, they've got everything they need. And when you're talking about a big time program, so I was a little nervous that Danny Hurley was going to jump, but I'm glad he stayed. I think he made the right choice. First of all, he has a chance to do something that hasn't been done in 50 years, to win 3 in a row. I think he's in the right place at the right time. And I just think going to the LA Lakers at this time, with the fact that LeBron, who knows? He's a medical miracle. He may play another 5 years. He may play another 2 years. He's not playing for the money. He's playing to hopefully play with his son and play for championships. But at some point, he's going to retire. And the Lakers let's face facts, the Lakers have not been the Lakers that they were when Jerry Buss was alive. They've been kind of outside of bringing LeBron in and winning that championship a couple of years ago, and the effort he puts out, Jeannie Buss has not shown that she can run this business, and it's really shown in the diminishing returns of them. I mean, the Golden State Warriors over the last decade leapfrogged over them and become the power of the West. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I do. I think she's done a terrible job. They got lucky by bringing in LeBron. That got him a championship just because of who LeBron is. But since then, they've done nothing to help him. And I mean, it's just, you can't just say, oh, we got LeBron, we're going to win a title. Well, you don't need a ton of superstars around LeBron, but you have to have guys that can help him. You have to have a supporting cast that can help him get it done. I mean, look at that 2020 team. We've talked about it on the show. Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard,
right.
Markieff Morris. I mean, we
the right players.
Yeah, there was the right fit around him. He had guys that could hit shots. He could have guys that could bring the ball up when he wanted to post his guy up. They had guys that could defend. They had guys that could block shots. They had guys that did the dirty work, that let LeBron do their thing. And since then, they've just been bringing in a bunch of crap and thinking, throwing it against the wall and seeing what'll stick. And it's been a joke. And to be honest, it's not been fair to LeBron and Anthony Davis, because there's been so much on their shoulders. I'm surprised, honestly, that they've had the success that they've had, with last year going to the conference finals, and then this year, getting to the playoffs and losing to the Nuggets again. I've been shocked that they've been able to do what they've been able to do with just the horrible roster that they've been put around. And I'm not going to blame it all on Buss, although she was a big part of why Rob Pelinka's there. And I've never been a big believer in Rob Pelinka. I don't understand. He thinks he's Rob. I think he's Rob Low every time I see him because he looks more and more like him every day. But he's about the same basketball IQ as Rob Lowe to begin with, because I don't understand what the hell he's doing in charge of this team.
Well, yeah, and I just think right now what you're seeing with the mess that is the head coaching job just proves it out. I mean, it's not going to get easier for you next year, and you conceivably are just spinning a wheel and hoping where whatever the wheel ends up on. Oh, we'll go for this guy now. We'll go for that guy. You know, it's like it's a shame because the Lakers are, I mean, right up there with the Celtics as one of the great franchises of all time. But lately not so much. Let's do a little bit on the what's become just a disappointing final. It looks like it's a victory lap for the Celtics. The other night, I was flipping around the channels and I came across Chris Mad Dog Russo and Steven A. Smith trying to make an argument that Luka and Kyrie are one of the best backcourts of all time. And this is my big thing is here. Okay, I know these guys were educated. I know they've been to journalism schools. I know they know how to do this thing, but they have to start understanding phrases. Hall of Famer, all time. That's bigger. That's a different connotation than right now. They're the hottest backcourt in basketball. That's what they were during the playoffs. They were the hottest backcourt in basketball. Stop saying all time. All time. You've been together 18 freaking months. 18 freaking months. And right now they're failing. And I can't believe that Jason Kidd's coming out in the press and skewering his best player, saying he doesn't hustle. He's down on defense. He's not in shape.
It's true.
Hurt. The guy's I know he is, but he's playing hurt. And the other thing is, if he says he's not playing defense now, when did he play defense?
Never. That's the problem. This is why he hasn't won a title, and why he's not going to win one in the future. I mean, they did a good job making a run here. Part of that had to do with the emergence of Derek Lively, the young kid out of Duke, who a lot of people were like, why is he going to the pros? He should stay. And look what he's done. Lucas certainly is a scorer, not to be reckoned with, but he's never played defense. He's never really going to play defense. Who's he going to guard? He can't guard anybody. And it's weird to see a guy who's a guard who can't run up and down the court. It's strange to me. And, I would think that he would want to work on that part of his game. But who knows?
Well, I was hearing some of the experts today talk about how, there's no defense in the NBA. At some point, you have to play defense in the NBA because at some point, I don't care when it is, you don't have to play consistently. You don't have to be Michael Jordan. You don't have to be LeBron. You don't have to be Gary Payton. You don't have to be one of those type of players, but you have to be able to come up with a stop when you need a stop.
Definitely.
That is one of the biggest things. At some point, in some game, in some championship series, you're going to need a vital stop to stop the bleeding or get the ball back. People forget about Michael, that last game against Utah years and years ago. They remember the last shot, but they forget about the steal that set up the last shot that he came up with.
Yeah.
So it's like
that was the biggest play of the game. And just one more quick point on what you were saying. Think about what you said there again. Mad Dog Russo and Stephen A. Smith. Who in the fuck decided it would be a good idea to put those two guys on the same show? It's like, oh God, I want to hit myself in the head with a hammer when either one of those guys talks, and much less both of them. Oh, drives me insane.
It was disappointing. I tell you, another thing, it happened the day Jerry West passed away, and I understand. Jerry West was 86. I understand there's a whole generation of kids out there. A lot of the people never saw him play. I got to see the end of his career, kind of, but he was still a great player. I mean, when he retired, he was the second leading scorer in NBA history and one of the great players of all time. I think as an executive, he gets a little bit of an overrated thing. I mean, yes, he did get Kobe, smart move. Yes, he did get Shaq, smart move. I mean, it's not like he discovered them. Kobe maybe so much, but a lot of the stuff he did, he was a great basketball mind. The thing I found disappointing was how he became like a crawl at the bottom of the screen. I know it's hard to find, like I said, a player who played with him. They're all in their 80s now. It's hard to find a guy who coached them. They're pretty much all passed away. But somebody, a Bob Ryan, somebody out there, you should have given at least a half hour on what this guy, the logo, meant to the NBA. Instead, he was a byproduct, an afterthought. There was more coverage of Aaron Rodgers not being at Jet Camp, for all that means. I mean, then Jerry West, one of the great basketball players of the 20th century, one of the great American athletes, an Olympic champion, an NBA champion, one of the great college basketball players of all time. And Jerry West died of cancer this morning, 86. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, he definitely, made his mark as both a player and, I mean, this is why I think he was such a great sports figure. Is not only was he a phenomenal player, but he was a fantastic executive. And it's kind of, he reminds me a little bit of Bill Walton in the sense that this guy was great at everything he did.
Right.
And, you could go through and nitpick his track record as a executive if you want to, but this guy picked, he drafted Vlade Divac.
Yeah, true.
He brought in Sam Perkins, who really, spruced up that Lakers team and gave him another scorer. There was some big things he did, bringing in Kurt Rambis is an underrated thing that he did. He drafted Eddie Jones, who was a really good pro. There's a lot of things he did that are kind of underrated that people, don't really talk about. And bringing in Shaq as a free agent was huge. I know he didn't necessarily draft him, but realizing that he could potentially get him and then making it happen. I mean, Shaq, brought the Lakers back. I mean, he created Showtime once again out in LA. So I give him a lot of credit for making that move and making that happen. And, hell, anybody that can, sign Rick Fox. I mean, hell, who doesn't love Rick Fox? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The guy's a beautiful, beautiful man. And he did a pretty good job, too, with the Grizzlies when he was there. Put together a competitive team.
He also helped Golden State put their things together. So, yeah, I guess my whole thing was, my biggest point that I wanted to get across was I just found it's so disappointing now that the talking heads that are now on Sports Talk Radio and the talking heads that are now running ESPN. I mean, if Curse Berman was still there, there would have been a big feature on Jerry West, a big feature on Bill Walton. You would have had a parade of players and coaches talking about what they meant to them, what they meant to the league and stuff like that. And instead, it's just the talking heads want to get their freaking opinions out on.
They have to push their woke agenda, buddy. I mean, come on. They don't care about sports anymore. They need to change the name of the network from, ESPN to EWPN because it's the woke network now. We know that.
I just think it's just they don't understand that you're talking about a series right now that was 2-0, heading for 3-0, and I don't know. And
speaking on that, we talked a little bit about Luka, and we talked about Kyrie and all that. Where do you think? Where does Tatum go now if they're able to win this? Put this away 4-1, 4-0, whatever it is. How do you view him in this? Because me and you talked about him a lot in the last couple of years. And one thing we always said was, he needs a title. He needs to get over the hump and win the East. And they did that. He needs to get over. And, this is a guy, Joe, who has never missed the Eastern Conference Finals in his career. Yeah. That, to me, is pretty astounding, considering, where he came from and who this guy is and how many different coaches he's had, how many different players he's had around him. I'm not sure where to put him on my list, but I think you have to start thinking about him as a real deal force in this league, considering he's going to have a ring.
You know, the thing about him that they remind me of, kind of in his personality and the way he goes about his business, is Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan. I was about to say that.
And I just think
he doesn't say much.
Right, doesn't say much, nothing controversial, never gets in trouble, does his own thing. He doesn't court the publicity. I mean, as much as I love Steph Curry courted the publicity. Yeah. LeBron courts the publicity. Michael Jordan courted the publicity. Tim Duncan and Jason Tatum are kind of examples of modern athletes that can live their lives, make their money, and not have to be, on the red carpet of every event, or, being interviewed by, everybody out there.
You mean like Russ Wilson, who shows up at every MTV award show,
yeah, exactly,
with his wife, and cares more about how many followers he has than he does completions anymore.
I mean, so he's a guy that's easy to root for. And, the thing about it is I for me, I mean, I was looking forward to a Knicks Celtics semifinal. I was looking. I think that would have done a lot for what goes on around here in basketball.
Well, the injuries destroyed.
The
playoffs. The injuries, I think, really, really harmed not only the the quality of the play, but also the eyeballs. I mean, Giannis being out. I mean, all the guys on the Knicks being hurt, Lillard being out. I mean, we could go down the list.
Yeah.
Leonard out in LA for the Clippers being injured. I mean, there was so many guys that were just not available come playoff time, and that was tough. And I think it harmed the league, and it harmed the playoffs as a whole. And it's created this finals that's difficult to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's almost like the basketball gods conspired to tease us and then pull the rug out from under us, because you're looking at it going, wow, if the Knicks got to play Celtics, if maybe they'll play Giannis, maybe, as you're going in the last month of the season, you're looking at all these, and even the Indianapolis series with the Knicks, there's a rivalry, there's a history of a rivalry there, that there's some hatred that could bring something back to liven up Eastern basketball. I think, when since LeBron left and then went and took everything out to the West Coast, the East Coast, yes, Miami's been fun. Miami's a great team with a great coach and and Pat Riley does a great job down there. But they're in South Beach. We don't even think about them up here. And the Celtics, if they win the championship, it'll be big for them. But there was no, when the Nets failed to have anything happen with that experiment, with the Knicks being what they've been, it's kind of been a void. Chicago not able to get back onto their winning ways. We need some influx of Eastern and maybe Midwestern basketball to get the eyeballs over here in my area back on it.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's been kind of rough with, the Bucks had that, won that title. But really, if you think about it, the only team that, that's kind of Eastern. I mean, the Bucks aren't really an Eastern team.
You're right.
I mean,
Wisconsin.
They're in Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee is not in the East. Okay.
Right.
And then Toronto, won, and they're like, oh, they're not West, but they're in Canada.
Exactly.
So, there hasn't been a team from the East that's won a title in some time. So I think maybe the Celtics winning here will be nice. And, we talked about Tatum. I mean, think about this for a second. Postseason playoff stats. Tatum leads the team with 25.2 points per game, 10.1 rebounds per game, assist with 6.2 points a game. I mean, I know Jaylen Brown's a great player. I love Jaylen Brown. He's one of my favorites. But you can't ignore that Tatum has been doing his thing. I mean, leading the team in points, rebounds, assists, and getting him a title. This kid deserves what he's getting. And think about it. Kristaps was supposed to be the big, the addition to the team, and he's played in 6 games and he started 4 of them. So he's been basically not there, which we've become all too familiar with. So they've won this whole thing with 48-year-old Al Horford out there, and that makes it even more impressive in my opinion.
Definitely. It would definitely we'll see that. So the basketball season is heading for the off season. So we'll get out of there. I want to switch over to a little college football now because I saw this article and I want to run this by you. Let me pull this up in front of me. Yard Barker had a article out earlier this week called 5 College Quarterbacks Primed to Make a Breakout This Season. And I'm going to run these guys by you and see what you're thinking, okay?
Gotcha.
Garrett Nussmeier down at LSU taking over for the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a little bit of him, and I'm not really sold yet, I guess would be my point. Now, this offense was legit as can be, especially last year. But, I think about what they lost. They lost their Heisman Trophy quarterback who
wide receivers,
Malik Neighbors, who went to the New York Giants, and now they're kind of picking up the pieces. And can Garrett Nussmeier step in and just be another Daniels? I don't think so. Is he going to get a shot? Yeah, because I don't think AJ Swan or Ricky Collins or Colin Hurley or any of these other guys on the roster are going to challenge him. So I do think he will be the starter, but I think their offense takes a step back.
All right. Next, they bring up Cameron Ward at Miami.
Cam Ward, one of the most overhyped quarterbacks, in my opinion, the last couple of years. I mean, he put up some gaudy numbers when he was at Incarnate Word. Looked like a guy that could come in and take over and do some things at Washington State, but just never really got that team over the hump. Was a little bit maybe less impressive as far as what I saw, and now the spotlight's going to be even more thrust upon him, and they're in must-win now mode. Think about this. Mario Cristobal has gotten paid $5 million per win since he's gotten there. Okay. They paid him 10 years, $80 million contract, plus they paid a $16 million buyout, plus a signing bonus to get him to come onto campus. And he's gone 12 and 13 overall, 5-7 and 5-7 in 2 years at Miami. So, I mean, there's no more pressure on anybody than Cam Ward. Do I think he can do it? No, I don't. I think it's going to be a little bit too much pressure for him. And I don't love the team around him. I mean, they've got some talent, but I don't see this team as being some team that's going to compete for a title. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see what happens. I just don't think he's going to be the difference maker that pushes them over the edge. We heard all this last year when Van Dyke was going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, and that was over by week 3.
The thing is, with not to bring him back to coach, but man, if I was freaking Miami, because he lives down in the area, I'd be going to Jimmy Johnson every day going, Coach, what do you think we should do? What coach should we look for that could be you? What should we look for to try and get the recruiting that he used to get back there in South Beach? Because it hasn't been the same. Well, Erickson did a good job after he left for a while, but it hasn't been the same since Jimmy left. So that's one thing they should do. Next one, Miller Moss at USC. We know that Lincoln can produce Heisman Trophy quality quarterbacks. Miller Moss, what do you think about him and his chances?
I haven't seen a ton of him, but what I did see was pretty impressive. He came in and played a little bit in the bowl game, when Caleb Williams took off and looked pretty solid. So, I think anybody in this system is going to put up pretty good numbers. My question is, what is he going to – how's this team going to do in the Big Ten? They're no longer in the Pac-12. There's going to be teams that have defenses. There's going to be teams that run the football on them and keep the offense on the sideline. So I'm very interested to see what this looks like now that USC is in the Big Ten. And I think this guy will put up good numbers. But can they improve on the 7-5 record? That's what I'm interested to find out.
And your boy at Tennessee, Nico.
Nico, yeah, I mean, $8 million before he ever took a snap. This is turning out so far to look like a pretty good investment for this Tennessee team. He played really well in the bowl game against Iowa. But let's be honest, that Iowa team was shit to begin with, and they had a lot of guys injured and also that opted out of that bowl game. So I don't really want to put a ton of stock in it. I like what Tennessee has coming back on the offensive line. Javonte Springans is a senior. John Campbell Jr. from Miami is also a senior. Cooper Mays is a senior. Jackson Lampley is a senior. They've got a lot of veteran guys on the offensive line. The offensive line should be better. Dylan Sampson's back as a really good running back. The only question mark I've got is the wide receivers. Last year, the wide receiving core was a big step backwards from Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman the year before. So if these wideouts can step up, Nico will be just fine.
And in Kansas State, they have Avery Johnson, who this article thinks going to step out. A big part of that is that Oklahoma and Texas aren't going to be in his way anymore. What do you think about Avery Johnson?
Yeah, looked pretty good as a freshman, but it's going to be his show now. I mean, you got his predecessor left, and Will Howard's going to be at Ohio State fighting for the job there. So this guy's going to be front and center. I'm just not so sure how talented this team is around him. So I don't really. I'm not looking at him to be a breakout kind of guy, in my opinion. I think he'll be serviceable, but Heisman talk or something like that, I don't see that.
All right, and in the time we got left, let's do a little pro football here. One thing that has caused it started out as a ripple and now it's becoming a total wave. The Jags putting out that money for Trevor Lawrence already, $55 million a year. I mean, we all know that this guy is predicted to be a Hall of Fame ticket to Canton. He's it's hard not to like Trevor Lawrence, but man, $55 million, and yeah, he hasn't had his breakout season yet. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, what has he done that deserves for him? It's almost like the mistake Arizona made.
Yeah.
It's like, why now? Why now?
Why I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand why we are paying these guys before they earn it. I don't get that. He hasn't earned it. Last year was a major disappointment. I know he played banged up a little bit. Maybe they're rewarding him from that. I had no problem with them giving him an extension, but paying this guy more than Joe Burrow, I think is a fucking joke. And he's not Joe Burrow. Okay, let's just be honest. He's nothing close to Joe Burrow and hasn't had success as a player in the pros as much as Joe Burrow has. So I was pretty confused when I saw those numbers.
I mean, we live in a country based on capitalism. I get it. I get all that stuff. But where do we draw the line? I mean, when he's taking $55 million, how are you going to fill out the team around him? I mean, and maybe just me being old fashioned, I go back to the time when Elway, Montana, Troy Aikman were working their contracts so they could keep the team around them together. And it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. I mean, every once in a while you'll see them rework a contract here and there, but still they're going for everything they can get now. I know it's money on a ledger sheet. It really doesn't count. It's not really there. But we're talking about a sport with a salary cap. We're talking about a sport where we see every year. What was there? How many different starting quarterbacks did we have last year? 30, 40, 50? I don't know how many different starting quarterbacks.
Quite a few. I don't have that number in front of me,
but I mean, it's just like, so how are you going to be able to afford a good backup quarterback from this guy?
Yeah, I need to look at the contract to see how it's worked, because that to me is very important. How did they front load this thing? How much money is he getting guaranteed? I don't know all that stuff, But it's the more money you pay a guy per year, the less amount of money you can spend around him.
Right.
And that's the issue. So I don't. They were able to sign a bunch of their guys this year. They signed Josh Allen to a big time contract. They were able to bring in some free agents. So far so good. But I just don't think he's earned. Patrick Mahomes is the only guy that has earned $50 million plus in my opinion. And maybe Josh Allen, if you want to throw his name in, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl. So I don't understand paying $55 million to a guy who can't make the damn playoffs.
And I'm not an economist, and you're more into these contracts than I am, so you know more about this than me. So maybe you can explain this to me better. And it's something I'm trying to go over in my mind. I mean, there's no two ways about it. The quarterback is the most valuable position in sports right now. Right now, it's highly valued. If you have your championship or franchise quarterback, you're pretty much set, and most of them are worth all the dollars in the world. But is there any way to restructure the cap where you're kind of given, I don't know how to say it, you're given more leeway to spend more money on the quarterback than you are to say as a right guard or a safety or something like that? Or does everything count the same against the cap?
What counts against the cap is the salary. So that's what matters is what is the salary for that year. What is your cap hit? It doesn't matter. You could be making $100 million, but you could be, if you're paid out $50 million in bonus, it's $80 million in bonus, and you only count $20 million against the cap. That's good business. But it's pushing things down the road. Eventually, it's going to come back to bite you. It's like the Tampa Bay situation that we talked about when Tom Brady finally retired, and they kept pushing that money down the can. Well, last year, it came in and hit them hard, where they had like $60 million in dead money, and the Broncos are facing that now this year with the Russell Wilson trade, where they've got a ton of dead money, and that's just gone, and you can't use it. So everyone's value is based upon their cap hit, and that's why these guys that have these huge contracts, they ask them to extend it. They ask them to convert it, salary into signing bonus. That way they can get other guys, and by even though they're paying guys, quarterback a ton of money, they can still get other players by converting that salary into signing bonus.
Yeah, I'm just like I don't know. Maybe kind of. I'm not. Believe me, I'm not an economist. If you ever saw my checkbook, you know that. But the fact of the matter is, it's like something where what you're paying for a quarterback doesn't hit your cap quite, because you're going to have to spend more for your quarterback. You don't take that huge cap hit where other positions where you're not going to pay that much. You can spend a little bit more to get quality players. I don't know if that makes sense in what I'm trying to say. It probably doesn't. And that's why I'm usually in debt.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can pay. You're gonna have to pay to get some of these free agents for sure, and sometimes these guys get overpaid. But it's just comes down to how much money do you have available, and what positions do you value? Obviously quarterback, pass rusher, left tackle. These are the big names. This is why some of these guys are not getting paid. Like some of these running back positions are dipping down because they're having to pay these other guys. The things that's blowing me away is the money these wide receivers are getting now. Quarterback, I understand they touch the ball every time, you need them, but these wide receivers getting $20-30 million a year, it's fucking nuts. And some of these teams have two wide receivers on their roster that are making $20 million a piece. Miami Dolphins, for example, Tyreek Hill makes about $30 million. Jalen Waddle's making 24. So you got $54 million in your two outside wideouts. That to me is just crazy. And I think, quarterbacks, there's not that many of them. That's why they get paid so much. You got maybe 10 that are actually worth a shit. Whereas receivers, they're coming into the league like water coming out of a dam. There's so many of them, and you can get away with putting a rookie on the field. We've found in the last few years. So I don't really see the value in paying these wide receivers $20-30 million when you can get somebody else to do the job for a lot less.
All right, and before we say goodbye for tonight, were you kind of shocked about the Aaron? I wasn't shocked when Aaron Rodgers didn't show up. I don't see. I was like, what's the big deal? I mean, and people trying to make it into a big deal. I was like, he's going to be your quarterback. You know that. So what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know how it helps the team not being there, but he was there through all the voluntary stuff, and he's been there. I think he's been pretty on board with the whole Jet program ever since he arrived. And was it a good look not being there? Probably not. But I think as long as he gets out there and looks similar to what we saw his last year in Green Bay, no one will remember this shit.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Any big plans for the weekend? What's going on?
Yeah, man. Just living it up. I got a sports memorabilia show tomorrow, so I'll be at the Carnes Convention Center selling my wares and peddling autographs and game-worn jerseys and all that stuff. So come down and see me and bring your wallet.
Yeah, definitely bring it up. Let's help Liv get you through college.
Hell
there
yeah,
you go.
Man. Yep.
All right, my friend. Good show tonight. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We will be back probably next Thursday, maybe next Friday. We don't know. Depends on how our schedules work out. I now have inherited a long weekend, which it was unexpected, and I'm looking forward to it.
Have a good time, brother.
Talk to you later, bud.
See me.